Erasmus of Rotterdam. Erasmus is one of the most interesting and enigmatic, and in many ways tragic, figures in history. He was born out of wedlock, a fact unknown to his father, Gerard, who, having fled in guilt from Holland to Rome, was told that his lover Margaret had died. Consumed with grief and remorse, Gerard entered the priesthood. Upon later returning to Holland, he discovered, to his great joy, that Margaret was alive, as was the son she had borne. Gerard, however, would not break his sacerdotal vows, nor would Margaret marry any other. Together they devoted themselves to their child Erasmus, whom they put into school at the early age of 4. Despite being orphaned in his teens, and living for years in desperate poverty, Erasmus pursued the study of Greek, Latin, and the classics, and became possibly the most eloquent scholar of his day. Ordained an Augustinian priest at the age of 24, the year Columbus sailed to America, his splendid intellect and unusual clarity of expression eventually made Erasmus famous. He was courted by the powerful and rich, including kings, princes, prelates, and even popes, who carried his favor. Henry VIII invited Erasmus to England, where he lectured at Cambridge University, and was a friend of luminaries such as Archbishop Warham, John Colet, and Sir Thomas More. All the while, Erasmus made no secret of his dislike of many of his church's practices. Both Erasmus's rejection of Rome's central doctrine of transubstantiation and his sense of humor, and no less his ability to remain in the good graces of important people in spite of offending them, are illustrated by a famous incident. Sir Thomas had loaned Erasmus a horse to carry him to the ship that would take him back across the Channel to the continent. The ever-irascible Erasmus took the horse with him aboard ship, and reaching shore, rode it all the way home. When More complained, Erasmus wrote back, reflecting the many times More had attempted to convince him of transubstantiation, a brief jingle as follows. "You said of the bodily presence of Christ, believe that you have, and you have him. Of the nag that I took, my reply is the same. Believe that you have, and you have him." Erasmus the renegade had already channeled his keen wit into the most cutting satire, which he used to unveil and combat the vices of the Roman Catholic Church. He attacked the monks and the prevailing abuses with elegant and biting sarcasms against the theology and devotion of his age. He immolated those schoolmen and those ignorant monks against whom he had declared war. As one of his devices, Erasmus cleverly used fiction as a weapon. In The Praise of Folly, written largely at More's home, he personified the goddess Folly as Moria, to whom he gave such lines as, "Do we not see every country claiming its peculiar saint? Each trouble has its saint, and every saint his candle. This cures the toothache, that assists women in childbed. A third restores what a thief has stolen. Especially virtuous is the Virgin Mother of God, in whom the people place more confidence than in her Son. Moria attacks the bishops, who run more after gold than after souls. Even the highest officials in Rome cannot escape. She asks, can there be any greater enemies to the Church than these unholy pontiffs, who allow Jesus Christ to be forgotten, who bind him by their mercenary regulations, who falsify his doctrine by forced interpretations, and crucify him a second time by their scandalous lives?"